Alright, I'll be showing you how to recreate Iman Gadzhi's signature lower third animations. We'll be covering all the techniques and methods behind these animations, so by the end you'll have the skills to replicate and use them in your own projects. If you want to skip the tutorial and start using these animations right away, you can download the MoGAR file from the link in the description and drag it onto your Premiere Pro project, but I'll get more into that at the end. Let's get started. Alright, let's begin by creating a new composition. I'll change the name to lower third. For the size, we'll be using 1920 by 1080 and 30 for the frame rate. The duration can be however long you'd like, but I'm going to be using a minute. Now let's select the shape tool and create a rectangle at the bottom of our screen. I'm going to change the size of my box to 500 pixels by 140. Center your shape to the middle using the alignment tool, and then whilst holding Ctrl, double click the anchor point tool to set the anchor point to the middle of our shape. Now let's import our icons and start putting everything together. I'll just drag one of these icons onto our composition above the shape layer. I see a bit of a problem, so before we put the icon on top of the shape, let's make the shape a different color so that the icon will be easier to see. And now we can move the icon into place. Keep moving it around until you're happy with its position. Somewhere around here is alright. Now let's add in some text. Select the text tool and place your text besides the icon. I'm going to be using Inter Extra Light, but you're free to use whatever font you like. Drag it into position and then press Ctrl D on your keyboard to duplicate the text layer. Move the new text layer underneath and change the font to Interregular. And we can also replace the text by using the text tool. Now adjust all the layers around and make sure that they're in the correct positions. That looks good to me. Now it's time to add some designs to our shape. From the effects panel, let's search for 4-color gradient and drag it onto the shape layer. This gradient effect has 4 different colors and you can set the position of each color. In Iman's example, he has the gradient going up in a diagonal pattern, so that's what we'll do. Press the picker besides point 1 and place it on the bottom left, a little off the shape. Then the second point can go on the very bottom left. The third can be placed in the middle, and the fourth on the top right. We can now change the colors of each point, so for color 1 I'll be using a dark blue. For color 2 a lighter blue. For color 3 we can use a pink. And for the last color we can use a reddy orange. In the example I showed you, the gradient has some movement, and we can achieve this by animating the position of our points. Let's zoom into the timeline a little and set a keyframe for each point at the beginning of our timeline. We can go a few frames ahead and shuffle the points around a little, but not too much or our animations will look jerky. Now let's move down a few more frames and do the same thing. We can do it one more time. To make the gradient animation loop, we can copy and paste the keyframes in reverse order. So press U on your keyboard to reveal the keyframes and copy and paste each one in reverse order. And now we've got a looping gradient animation. To finish off the box design, we can add a white stroke. Head to the layer menu and then layer styles and select stroke. Open up the stroke settings and set the color to white and the size to 1. And that's our box design complete. Now it's time to start animating. We'll begin by animating the icon. Open up the icon's transform properties and set the position and the rotation keyframes at 2 seconds. Now move back to 0 and rotate the icon to about -14. Drag the icon a little out of the box to set the position keyframe. Our icon now comes in with a little rotation, but it's looking a bit too linear. We want to add some speed to this animation. To do this, we can highlight our keyframes, right click and then select Easy Ease. And then press the graph editor so that we can change the curve. Highlight the endpoints and then pull them in a little. So now our icon will come in fast and then slow down. That's our icon done for now. Let's animate our bottom text layer. After Effects has a bunch of built-in text presets that we can take advantage of. Search for the decoder fade-in preset in the effects panel and drag it onto the text layer. And now we've got this scramble fade-in animation, which Iman actually uses a lot in his videos. It's a little too lengthy for me, so I'm going to hit U to reveal the keyframes and drag the last one to about 2 seconds. Now let's animate the box. Open up the transform properties and unlink the scales so that we can adjust them separately. Go to 2 seconds and set a keyframe for the scale. Now go back to 0 and decrease the X percentage to around 23%. And just like earlier, we can easily ease the keyframes to smooth out our animation. We've got this so far, but as you can see, the icon is visible outside of the box. To fix this, we can set the track matte of the icon to the box. Under the track matte heading, select the shape layer. I'll do the same for the text layers for good measure. Once you've done that, make the shape layer visible again. And now our icon is masked to the box. Pre-compose all of the layers and name it lower third animation. Open up the transform controls and set the position and the opacity keyframes at 2 seconds. Now let's go back to 0 and drag our comp down a little and also set the opacity to 0. We can smoothen out the position keyframes by highlighting them and then applying easy ease. Adjust the curve to about 90%. And now we've got the finished animation. But what if you wanted to create 3 of these just like Iman does? Well, there's 2 ways you could achieve this. The first would be to render this animation out 3 times with different text and icons, or we could duplicate this composition and put them side by side. Let me show you how. Remove the keyframes from your composition. Then, in the project panel, duplicate the lower third animation comp twice by pressing Ctrl D on your keyboard. Now let's open up lower third animation 2 and replace the contents. Drag in your new icon to the timeline and drag it into position. And then press the old icon layer and hit U to reveal the keyframes. Copy the keyframes over to the new icon and then delete the old one. Set the track matte so that our icon stays within the box. And then change the text layers to your new text. You can repeat the same process for lower third animation 3. And now we've got 3 unique animations which we can now put together. Go back to the main composition and place in our newly created ones. Drag them onto either side and then distribute them evenly using the align panel so that the space between each box is the same. Highlight all the layers and press P to open up the position control. Set the keyframe at 2 seconds for all layers. Open up the opacity controls and do the same. Now go back to 0 and press U twice to reveal the keyframes. Drag the composition down a little and then set the opacity to 0. Smoothen it all out by highlighting all of the position keyframes and applying easy ease. Finally, we can offset the layers so that they appear at different times. And now we've got our completed animation. But what if I told you there's an easier way to achieve the same results but with 0% of the time? I've linked the mockup file in the description, which can be applied in Premiere Pro within seconds and has a ton of customization options. To get started, first download the mockup file. And then from your downloads folder, drag the mockup file onto the Essential Graphics panel. Now you can drag this straight onto your timeline and you're pretty much done. Let me go over some of the customization options. Press the layer to open up the Edit tab. Here we can change the quantity to either 1, 2 or 3 boxes. We can change how long it takes for the animation to transition out by adjusting the out delay. So at the moment it's set to 9 seconds, but if we move it over to 20 seconds, our animation now stays on the screen for 20 seconds before it fades out. We've also got a ton of color settings, so you can change the gradient colors, stroke color, and even the stroke thickness. Open up the font settings tab to change the font or color of the title and body text. Each of the boxes has its own group so that you can change the text and the icons. Let's open the first one up and I'll show you how you can do just that. Get an image and drag it onto where it says icon 1. As you can see, it's changed right away on the video. And now we can change the text and make it whatever we'd like. Easy as that. So if you want this file, the link is in the description. Don't forget to sub up for more tutorials like this and I'll see you next time.